Welcome to this analysis of the February 7, 2026, interim trade framework between India and the United States. Titled Resistance and Reciprocity, this session explores the friction points of a deal that seeks to balance industrial ambition with agrarian sovereignty. While the official document represents a handshake between nations, for many on the ground, it represents a profound moment of tension. The core of the deal is a classic strategic trade-off. The US is offering reduced tariffs on Indian industrial goods, while India provides calibrated access to its agricultural markets. However, this has triggered an immediate domestic crisis. Major unions like the Samyukt Kisan Morcha (SKM) and All India Kisan Sabha (AIKS) have labeled the framework a total surrender to American corporations, citing direct threats to national sovereignty. The friction isn't just about headline numbers, it's about the mechanics of backdoor entry through minimum import prices, MIPs, and byproducts like dried distillers' grains, or DDGS. The tension reached a boiling point on February 12, 2026. A nationwide general strike was called by the SKM and AIKS. Tactics included village-level protests, road blockades, and the burning of effigies of Prime Minister Modi and US President Trump. Union leadership has been clear. They view this as a total surrender of Indian agriculture. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal defends the deal through the lens of reciprocity. On the industrial side, the gains are significant. US tariffs on Indian textiles and leather are set to drop from rates as high as 50% down to 18%. Additionally, Indian exporters of basmati rice, tea, coffee, and spices will enjoy duty-free access. The government maintains that sensitive sectors like dairy remain fully protected. Despite those gains, the agrarian base is anxious about dumping. The fear is that highly subsidized US crops will flow into India's non-subsidized ecosystem, artificially depressing domestic prices. While dairy is off-limits, the deal lowers barriers for red sorghum and animal feed components, alarming corn and soy growers who feel their markets are being targeted. Let's look at a specific flashpoint: apples. The policy shift is twofold. The import duty on US apples is being halved from 50% to 25%. To balance this, the government raised the minimum import price, MIP, from Rupee 50/kg to Rupee 80/kg. The intent is to meet consumer demand while using the MIP to prevent a price crash for growers in Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. This creates the MIP paradox. If the price of Washington apples is effectively rising to Rupee 100/kg due to the new floor, why are orchard owners protesting? The answer lies in skepticism. Farmers fear that the MIP won't be strictly enforced and believe only a 50% duty can truly protect them during the peak Indian harvest. In the soybean sector, we see a tiered approach to protection. Raw soybeans remain on the sensitive list with no concessions. Soybean oil is calibrated, it's duty-free, but capped by a tariff rate quota, TRQ. DDGS, a byproduct, is fully exposed, with tariffs being phased out entirely. What is DDGS? It stands for dried distillers' grains with solubles, a nutrient-rich byproduct of US corn and soy ethanol production. Because it is a byproduct, it is incredibly cheap. It competes directly with Indian de-oiled cake dock for animal feed. This drives down prices for Indian soy farmers at the mandis, creating what unions call a critical loophole. Beyond economics, there is a biological fear. India has strict restrictions on genetically modified, GM, food crops. However, US DDGS is largely derived from GM corn and soy. Unions fear contamination through the backdoor, where GM elements enter the human food chain indirectly via animal feed. Compounding these fears is a lack of transparency. Opposition leaders and unions criticize the government for not providing public access to the full list of products and tariff lines. This opacity fuels a fear of the unknown, leading to demands to scrap the deal entirely rather than negotiating specific items. We are currently in a standoff. The government points to exclusions like rice and wheat and the use of TRQs to control flow. Farmers, meanwhile, are demanding the resignation of the Commerce Minister and a legal guarantee for the minimum support price, MSP. In the macro view, the drop in US tariffs to 18% is a major win for Indian exporters. But the micro reality is different. The impact on the agrarian base in places like Vidarbha and Himachal creates political stress that far outweighs the industrial gains. Ultimately, the stability of this framework depends on whether the government can strictly enforce the safeguards it has promised. As we look ahead, the success of this framework hinges on three critical execution pillars. First is MIP enforcement. Can the government truly maintain the Rupee 80/kg floor for apples when the peak harvest season hits and market pressure mounts? Second is TRQ implementation. How strictly will the volume quotas on soy oil be monitored at our ports to prevent market saturation? Finally, we must watch the protest arc. Will the February 12 strike force a total rollback, or will the existing, sensitive list exclusions be enough to eventually fracture the opposition's resolve? To conclude, this deal is a high-stakes balancing act. We have secured significant industrial gains in textiles and leather, but at the cost of opening technical backdoors in agriculture via DDGS and apples. We've seen that the MIP paradox creates a gap between mathematical protection and the lived fears of farmers regarding corporate dominance. Most importantly, we must address the DDGS friction point, as it sits at the intersection of economic threat and biological anxiety over GM contamination. As the saying goes, trade deals are mathematical, but their impact is emotional and biological. The future of this framework depends entirely on the rigorous, transparent enforcement of every promised safeguard.